So Politico is reporting that the Department of Justice is charging the leaders of the Proud Boys with seditious conspiracy over the January 6th attack. The charges come the same week that the January 6th Select Committee plans to hold its first hearing analyzing the Capitol breach. So they say the Justice Department has charged leaders of the Proud Boys, the pro-Trump extremist group that played a central role in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack, with conspiring to use force to oppose the presidential transfer of power. The seditious conspiracy charges, announced in a grand jury indictment returned Monday, escalate the case against the Proud Boys and their leader Enrique Tarrio, who faces some of the most severe charges related to the attack on the Capitol. The Justice Department unveiled similar seditious conspiracy charges against an anti-government militia group, the Oath Keepers, and their leader Stuart Rhodes in January 2022. The indictment also included a second charge against the group, conspiracy to prevent the police and Congress from discharging their official duties. The indictment underscores the DOJ's contention that the Proud Boys played a central role in stoking and amplifying the violence on January 6th. Prosecutors say the group directed and mobilized the crowd and helped move people toward the foot of the Capitol by removing barriers. If that's true, they probably have that on video. So that might be tough for them to overcome these charges and defeat these charges if it is recorded. The group's leaders, who were joined by dozens of other members of the Proud Boys, also timed their arrival at the Capitol to precede the end of former President Donald Trump's speech at the Ellipse, ensuring they were among the first to arrive at the barricades, according to DOJ and video footage of the group's march. Okay, so they do have some of this stuff on video. One of those members, Dominic Pezzola of New York, became the first to breach the Capitol shortly after 2 p.m. on January 6th using a stolen police riot shield to smash a window. Well, that guy's screwed. That guy's going down. Yeah, you can't break a window with a stolen police riot shield, which then led to storming of the Capitol and get away with that, forcing Congress and then Vice President Mike Pence to flee for safety and delaying the counting of electoral votes required to facilitate the transition of power to President Joe Biden. In a new piece of evidence included in the indictment, prosecutors described a text message exchange Tarrio had with an unnamed associate on the evening of January 6th, in which they were celebrating the breach of the Capitol. In one reply, Tarrio simply wrote, "The Winter Palace." That phrase, referring to a crucial event during the Russian Revolution in 1917, also appears in a document prosecutors contend Tarrio received a week before storming the Capitol. That document, titled 1776 Returns, describes a plan to occupy various buildings in Washington on January 6th, according to the Justice Department. In the same text exchange, Tarrio's associate erroneously suggested that if the January 6th session of Congress were delayed into the next day, it would render the process invalid. Despite the inaccuracy, prosecutors may see that as an indication of the group's intent. When asked by his associate whether the Proud Boys had just influenced history, Tarrio replied, "Let's first see how this plays out." Trump famously exhorted the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by during a presidential debate in October 2020, a response to a question about his message to extremist groups. The Proud Boys interpreted that language as a call to action. Wow. The new high-profile seditious conspiracy charges for the Proud Boys come just 4 days before a House committee is set to hold the first of many hearings detailing the findings of a months-long investigation into the events leading up to and on January 6th. The hearings are expected to increase Democratic pressure on Attorney General Merrick Garland to criminally charge members of Trump's inner circle or the former president himself for the events of that day. Thus far, the Justice Department has charged 2 former aides to Trump, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, with defying subpoenas from the House panel probing January 6th. Both men are fighting the misdemeanor charges and have not been accused of any crime directly related to the insurrection. Tarrio testified to the January 6th Select Committee in February, a month before he was initially charged for his role in the Proud Boys' efforts, but he spent most of the interview asserting his Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. So here's the thing. If a lot of the things that they're charging him with, they probably have on video. So he could go down on certain things. The grand overall charge of, sedition effectively or seditious conspiracy, I don't know how that's going to go, because I don't know if the plan needs to be viable. You know what I'm saying? Somebody can be sitting in their bed eating Dominoes in Arkansas and they write down a plan for a quote-unquote seditious conspiracy, but they never lift a finger for it. Is that person guilty of it? In other words, does the intent have to be plausible? Or is it just the idea itself that then could lead you to be found guilty? I don't know. Because what this strikes me as is like, these guys are a bunch of idiots, but they're Bush League, and they're like, they're in over their head, they don't know what they're doing, they think they're organized, but they're not remotely organized, or not remotely organized enough. So it never really had a chance of succeeding, and I don't know how much that would play into whether or not they're guilty or innocent. Now, in terms of, where their heart was and what they wanted, well, I mean, it's clear as day. They wanted to block the transfer of power to Joe Biden. They wanted to block the congressional proceedings, and they did try to make that happen. There's no doubt about it. Storming the Capitol, leading the charge into the Capitol, the things they said in the private text messages, the intent was certainly there. Again, it had really no prayer of succeeding, but I don't know if that matters. I would guess that doesn't matter. So it's possible that they do go down on these charges, both the Oath Keepers and the leaders of the Proud Boys. I guess we'll find out, man. I guess we'll find out. But the other issue here is, and I have zero love for the Proud Boys, and that's obvious, but the FBI also are liars, And so a lot of the law enforcement groups that were involved, they don't have a good record of like, we're just objective enforcers of the law. That's all we're doing. That's not really true either. So I don't know to what extent they're sort of mucking stuff up and to what extent it's actually happened. But either way, the facts of the case are pretty straightforward. And what I mean by that is they had the intent to overthrow Joe Biden or block the transfer of power to Joe Biden. They acted on that to one extent or another. But it's also the case they happen to be a bunch of idiots and there was no real high-level organization that could have led to success. But again, I don't know if that matters. If I had to guess, I don't think that really matters. Because there was at least some concerted effort there to get to that end goal. So, charged with seditious conspiracy, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Very curious how this one unfolds. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.